At the tender age of 12, my entire world crumbled during a simple, yet profound, living room conversation. My parents, with somber expressions, delivered news that would change my life forever. "Melissa, we need to talk," my father said, his voice eerily calm. I felt a wave of unease wash over me. Something was wrong. My mother inhaled deeply before dropping the bombshell. "Your father and I are getting divorced." The word struck me hard. Divorce? They never argued, always treating each other with respect. Although we hadn't gone on family trips recently, the concept of them separating was unfathomable. Why? I managed to utter, tears forming in my eyes. My father cleared his throat, explaining that they had each met someone else. As my mother reached out to comfort me, I instinctively pulled away. "We'll both still be here for you," she assured me, explaining I would now split time between two homes. The following days were a haze as I watched my dad pack his belongings into boxes, the physical dismantling of our shared life. Meanwhile, my mother occupied herself with redecorating, perhaps trying to erase the lingering presence of my father. The upheaval continued when my mother's new husband, Jerry, moved in with his young daughter, Victoria. "Melissa, meet Jerry and his daughter Victoria," my mother said, too cheerily. I mustered a smile, hoping for the best, thinking perhaps having a sister could be a positive change. However, Victoria's cold glance and sarcastic "nice to meet you" suggested otherwise. The next day, I attempted to connect with Victoria by sharing my favorite books and toys, but she dismissed me sharply. "We're not sisters and we're never going to be friends. You're just in the way," she declared. As time passed, I observed my mother doting on Victoria, showering her with new clothes and praise, even giving her my old toys. I overheard a conversation about enrolling Victoria in a prestigious school because she was gifted, while I was merely fine. Months passed, and I increasingly felt like an outsider in what was becoming the perfect family unit for everyone but me. Eventually, it was time for my first visit to my dad's new place. Filled with a mix of excitement and anxiety, I hoped for a fresh start. My dad's new wife, Amy, greeted us with a superficial warmth. "Welcome, Melissa. I hope you'll feel comfortable here," she said, as she showed me to a small room that smelled of incense and unfamiliar spices. The next morning, Amy offered me a special Tibetan tea. Reluctantly, I tried it, but it tasted bitter, and soon after, my throat began to itch and burn. I coughed violently, struggling to breathe. "Dad!" I cried out in alarm. Amy dismissed my distress with a wave of her hand, insisting, "Stop being so dramatic. It's just tea." Through these tumultuous times, I grappled with feelings of displacement and invisibility, yearning for a sense of belonging and understanding that seemed ever elusive in the shifting sands of new family dynamics. As I continued coughing, my vision blurred, and the sensation of suffocating on dry land overwhelmed me. "Call an ambulance." I heard my dad shouting from somewhere far away, his voice sounding distant and distorted. "She's faking it," Amy insisted stubbornly. "Melissa, this attention-seeking behavior needs to stop." I couldn't muster a reply. The world was dimming, fading to black around me. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in a hospital bed, an oxygen mask strapped over my face. My dad was there beside me, his face etched with worry and pallor. "You had a severe allergic reaction," he explained, his voice heavy with concern. The doctors had said that waiting any longer could have been catastrophic. He didn't need to finish his sentence. The gravity of the situation was clear. I could have died because Amy hadn't taken my distress seriously. After being discharged from the hospital, we returned to my dad's apartment, where Amy awaited us, her arms firmly crossed. "I think it's best if Melissa doesn't stay here anymore," she stated coldly, casting me as too much of a problem. I turned to my dad, hoping for some defense, but he remained silent, defeated. The ride back was painfully quiet. I waited for my dad to say something, anything to apologize or to promise that he would set things right. But he said nothing. I walked into the house and didn't bother saying goodbye to Dad. Mom barely glanced up from her magazine. "You're back," she noted, almost annoyed. I retreated to my room without a word, closing the door behind me. I was alone, truly alone, and at a loss for how to mend the broken pieces of my life. The next few weeks at home were a blur of loneliness and confusion. Victoria continued her antagonism, breaking my things and blaming me. One day, she knocked over a vase, causing water and flowers to spill everywhere. "Mom, Jerry," she screamed, "Melissa broke your favorite vase." Before I could defend myself, Jerry charged in. "That's it, young lady," he growled at me. "Go to your room. No allowance this month to pay for the damage." I looked to my mom, silently pleading for her to see the truth, but she just shook her head, disappointment etched on her face. As I sat in my room, tears streaming down my face, I realized I needed an escape. That's when I thought of Grandma, my dad's mother. She lived alone, taught at the local college, and had always been a source of kindness. Perhaps she could help. Arriving at Grandma's house felt like entering another world. The moment I stepped through her door, I felt a burden lift from my shoulders. Her home smelled of old books and freshly baked cookies, a cozy sanctuary filled with overstuffed chairs and shelves brimming with books. "How about we have some tea, and you tell me what's been going on?" Grandma suggested, leading me to the kitchen. For the first time in months, I felt safe enough to open up. I poured out everything: the divorce, the new families, Dad's neglect, the frightening incident at his apartment. Grandma listened intently, her kind eyes never leaving my face. When I finished, she squeezed my hand gently. "Oh, Melissa, I'm so sorry you've been going through all this alone. You can come here whenever you need to. My door is always open to you." From that day on, Grandma's house became my sanctuary. I began spending more and more time there, helping her cook, working in her garden, and reading books from her vast collection. One evening, as we sat in her study, Grandma asked, "How are your grades, Melissa?" I shrugged. "Okay, I guess. Mom's more focused on Victoria's schoolwork these days." Grandma's expression hardened slightly. "Well, that won't do. How about I help you with your studies?" Her offer was a lifeline, extending not just academic help but a reaffirmation of her unwavering support. And so, our after-school tutoring sessions with Grandma began. She was an incredible teacher, bringing even the most mundane subjects to life with intriguing stories and real-world applications. As the weeks turned into months, I found myself spending more and more time at Grandma's house. Initially, it was just the weekends, but soon I was staying several nights a week. Before I knew it, I was practically living there full-time. Oddly enough, neither Mom nor Dad seemed to really notice my gradual shift in residence. When I occasionally went home, Mom would ask distractedly, "Oh, were you at your father's?" Meanwhile, on the rare occasions I saw Dad, he seemed to assume I'd been with Mom. It was during one of these extended stays at Grandma's that a significant issue arose. I returned from school one day to find Grandma looking unusually worried. "Melissa," she began, her tone serious, "there were some people from the guardianship service at your school today." My heart skipped a beat.
"What?"
"Why?" I asked, anxiety creeping into my voice. Grandma sighed deeply. "Your teacher, Mrs. Lewis, visited your mother's house to discuss moving you to a class for gifted children. When she asked about your whereabouts, your mother said you were living with your father. Mrs. Lewis then called your father, who claimed you were with your mother. It became clear to her that neither of your parents actually knew where you were." I sank into a chair, feeling my legs weaken under the weight of the situation. "What's going to happen now?" I murmured. "The guardianship service has allowed you to stay with me for now," Grandma explained. "But they're going to file a lawsuit to determine your official place of residence." That night, as I lay in bed at Grandma's, I could hear her on the phone in the next room. Her voice was low and intense. She was advocating for me. For the first time in a long while, I realized someone was truly putting me first. The day of the court hearing was daunting. The courtroom was filled with polished wood and stern faces. Mom and Dad sat on opposite sides, neither willing to meet my eyes. It reminded me of my friend Jesse, whose parents had also divorced. They had fought fiercely over his custody, each desperate to have him. But here, it was the opposite. As the judge, a stern-looking woman with glasses, called the hearing to order, the atmosphere was tense. "We are here today to determine the living arrangements for Melissa Wilson," she announced. What followed felt like a surreal nightmare. Instead of clamoring to keep me, my parents argued vehemently about who should not have to take me. "She should live with her mother," Dad exclaimed, his face flushed with frustration. "I've got a new family now. We don't have room for her." Mom stood up, her voice piercing and frantic. "Oh no, you don't. I have a life too, you know. I can't be expected to take care of her full-time." I sat there, stunned and heartbroken, as my parents debated who wanted me less. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I fought to hold them back, refusing to let them see how deeply they were hurting me. The judge's gavel came down hard, demanding order. She then turned to me, her expression softening slightly. "Melissa, I'm very sorry you're going through this," she said. I nodded, unable to trust my voice. Just then, I heard a chair scrape back, and Grandma stood up. Her voice was clear and resolute as she addressed the court. "Your Honor," she began, standing tall despite her age, "if I may speak." The judge nodded, and Grandma continued, "It's clear that neither of Melissa's parents are willing or able to provide her with the stable home she deserves. I am her grandmother, and I am more than willing to take full custody of her." She approached the bench, handing over a stack of documents. "These papers show that I am financially stable. I am a professor at Westfield College with a respectable salary and substantial savings. More importantly, I can provide Melissa with the love and care she needs." Living with Grandma Helen was like being enveloped in a perpetual embrace of warmth and understanding. Our days followed a rhythm that brought comfort and stability to my life, a stark contrast to the turbulence of my previous years. Each morning, we'd tend to her garden, her hands skillfully nurturing the plants as she nurtured me with life lessons. In the afternoons, our kitchen table transformed into a study where history, mathematics, and literature were not just subjects, but adventures we embarked on together. Evenings were our time for baking, each batch of cookies infused with the rich sense of vanilla and love. With Grandma's guidance, I blossomed. My school performance soared, friendships blossomed, and the wounds inflicted by my parents' indifference began to heal. As time passed, the significance of their absence dulled, replaced by the contentment of my new life with Grandma. Before I knew it, years had passed, and it was time to don a cap and gown, a symbol of my academic journey's end, and the beginning of a new chapter. Standing amidst a sea of graduates, I felt a surge of gratitude for Grandma, whose unwavering support was my anchor. As my name was called, and I walked across the stage, Grandma's cheers pierced the crowd. "That's my girl." Her pride was palpable, a beacon in the sea of faces. The void left by my parents' absence was noticeable, but no longer painful. I had grown beyond the need for their approval. After graduating with honors, I earned a scholarship to attend Westfield College, choosing to delve into the complexities of investment management. College life was a whirlwind of intellectual challenges and social engagements. I immersed myself in campus activities, forming a network of friends and mentors who were drawn to my resilience and inspired by my story. Grandma remained my cornerstone, her phone calls and care packages a constant reminder of her love. My junior year brought unexpected heartache. Grandma passed away peacefully in her sleep. The news was a shattering blow, halting my world. In the days that followed, I found myself organizing her funeral, determined to honor her memory in a manner she deserved. The outpouring of respect and love at her funeral was overwhelming. The church overflowed with people from all walks of life, community leaders, educators, and those whose lives had been touched by her kindness. As I delivered the eulogy, a tapestry of her life unfolded, revealing the profound impact she had on so many. I looked out over the crowd, my heart holding a sliver of hope that my parents might appear. But they did not come. It was a stark reminder of their continued indifference, not just to me, but to the remarkable woman who had stepped in to raise me. Their absence, once a source of deep pain, had become a part of my reality I accepted. Grandma had given me a legacy of strength and love, enough to sustain me through life's challenges. As I stood before the congregation, sharing stories of her wisdom and generosity, I realized that her greatest gift was teaching me that we can choose our family, not through blood, but through the bonds we forge and the love we nurture. Thanks to Grandma Helen, I didn't just survive my turbulent childhood. I thrived, equipped with the tools and tenacity to navigate the future, inspired by her enduring love and the indomitable spirit she instilled in me. When Helen, more than just my grandmother, passed away, I found myself grappling with a profound mix of emotions. As I began my speech at her funeral, my voice was steady, a stark contrast to the turmoil inside. She was my guardian, my teacher, my biggest supporter, and my best friend, I declared, feeling the weight of each word. After the service, as a long line of mourners offered their condolences, the temptation to call out my parents for their glaring absence and years of neglect was overwhelming. However, looking around at the crowd of people touched by Grandma's kindness and wisdom, I realized something crucial. Their absence spoke volumes about them, not about us. 3 weeks after the funeral, I was summoned to the notary's office. My heart skipped as I entered, only to find my parents already there, seated on opposite sides of the room. They offered curt nods, their disinterest palpable, not even bothering to ask how I had been coping. The room was tense, filled with unspoken grievances as the notary, a balding man with kind eyes, began the meeting. "Shall we begin?" he asked, looking around. As he read from Grandma's will, the air seemed to thicken. "To my beloved granddaughter, Melissa Wilson, I leave my entire estate, including my house and all my savings, amounting to $2 million. Silence seized the room momentarily before chaos erupted. "What?" my father exclaimed, his face reddening with anger. "That's impossible. I'm her only son. She can't just leave everything to Melissa." My mother's voice joined the fray, shrill and incredulous. "Surely there's some mistake. Helen could have at least left something for us. We're family too." Stunned by the revelation, $2 million and a house, I barely registered their outrage. The notary raised his hand for silence. "There's more," he announced, pulling out an envelope. Mrs. Wilson left a letter to be read at this time. He began to read. "My dearest Melissa, if this letter is being read, it means I am no longer with you. But please know that my love for you extends beyond this life. You are the daughter of my heart, the only one who truly cared for me in my final years. To my son and his ex-wife, I am deeply disappointed in the way you abandoned Melissa. A child is a blessing, not a burden to be cast aside when inconvenient. Your actions have shown me that you do not deserve to benefit from my life's work. I know this decision may upset you, but it is final and legally binding. Melissa, use this inheritance wisely to build the life you deserve, the life I always knew you could have. All my love, Grandma." Silence fell once more, but it was fleeting. My parents' demeanor shifted instantly. Their eyes were suddenly friendly, their voices dripping with false sweetness. "Melissa, sweetie," my mother cooed, "surely you'll share some of this with us? We're family, after all." My father chimed in, nodding eagerly. "Yes, let's discuss this reasonably. We can come to some sort of arrangement." But as they spoke, I felt a newfound resolve strengthening within me. I stood, addressing the notary. "Thank you for your time. I'll be in touch about the necessary paperwork." With that, I walked towards the door, their angry shouts fading behind me. Grandma had given me much more than money and property. She had endowed me with the strength to stand on my own, to face the world without flinching. A few days after the will reading, my phone rang. It was my mother, her tone uncharacteristically sweet. "Melissa, sweetie, it's been so long. We miss you terribly. Won't you come for dinner?" The invitation was absurd, almost laughable after years of silence and neglect. As I held the phone, a light chuckle escaped me, and for the first time in years, I felt free from the weight of their indifference. Suddenly, they remembered me. Driven by curiosity, I agreed to visit them the following evening. As I stood on the porch of the house where I grew up, a place that now seemed foreign, I felt a mix of emotions. My mother opened the door, her expression carefully composed into what she hoped looked like joy. The tears welling up in her eyes seemed overly theatrical. Jerry, her husband, and Victoria, my stepsister, were also there, offering forced smiles that didn't seem genuine. During dinner, the atmosphere was tense. My mother repeatedly mentioned how tough recent times had been. "The house is practically falling apart," she lamented with a dramatic sigh. "The roof needs work, the plumbing is a disaster, and poor Victoria desperately wants to attend a prestigious college, but our finances are stretched thin." I noticed their pointed looks and subtle hints, but chose to ignore them. I inquired about their lives and their work, feigning interest as they struggled to engage in real conversation. Eventually, my mother turned to me, her eyes wide with what appeared to be concern. "And you, Melissa, how have you been? What have you been up to all these years?" I smiled, curious to see if she knew anything about my life. "Actually, I'm in my final year of college now. By the way, do you know where I'm studying or what my major is?" Her face lost color as Jerry and Victoria shifted awkwardly. "Well, that is..." My mother stammered. "It's okay, Mom," I said, my voice calm yet assertive. "You don't have to pretend. I know you're not interested in my life. You're more interested in my inheritance." Immediately, the facade fell away. My mother's expression twisted into one of anger and embarrassment. Jerry began to object, and Victoria muttered something indistinct. "Now, Melissa," my mother started, her voice strained with a mix of defensiveness and frustration. "That's not fair. We're family. We're just trying to reconnect." "No," I interrupted, standing up. "Family doesn't just abandon each other. Family doesn't ignore each other for years and then only reach out when there's money at stake." I headed for the door, ignoring their protests. As I stepped into the cool evening, their voices faded behind me. With each step, I felt a growing sense of liberation. A few days later, I found myself at my father's more modest home. The paint was peeling, and the whole place looked shabbier than I remembered. My father opened the door, a mix of surprise and hesitant warmth on his face. "Melissa," he greeted, ushering me inside. There, I met my stepmother, Amy, whose smile seemed fragile. "Welcome, Coda. It's been too long." A young boy peeked from behind Amy. His eyes were full of curiosity. This was Nathan, my half-brother. I hadn't seen him since he was a baby, and now he was about 9 years old, a stark reminder of how much time had passed. "This is Nathan," my father said, ruffling his hair. "Say hello to your sister." Nathan just stared, unsure what to make of me. As we sat down, the conversation felt awkward. My father cleared his throat. "Melissa, we've been thinking. Nathan is very bright, and we'd like him to attend Westbrook Academy. It's a prestigious school, but the tuition..." He trailed off, hoping I'd offer to help. "And you thought I might be willing to pay for it?" I completed his sentence. My father looked embarrassed. "Well, you see," he started. "Dad," I interrupted, my patience thinning. "Why is it that you only remember me now? Why didn't you call on my birthdays or when I graduated high school or when I started college?" Before he could respond, Amy interjected sharply. "Now listen here, young lady." During a heated family argument, my father played his final card. "We're family. You're obligated to help us. If you don't, we'll take you to court and demand our share." I couldn't contain my reaction. I burst out laughing. Regaining my composure, I responded, "Actually, legally speaking, we're not family. You both abandoned me. Grandma became my legal guardian, so you have no claim to anything." Their faces turned pale, quickly shifting to expressions of anger. My father tried to argue, but I was already walking out the door. As I left, I caught a glimpse of Nathan's face, his expression a mix of confusion and sadness. I felt a twinge of sympathy for him. He was just an innocent caught in the crossfire. Over the following days, my phone was inundated with calls and messages from both my parents. They oscillated between begging and threatening, trying to manipulate me into feeling guilty. My mother even sent a melodramatic message claiming they were on the brink of homelessness due to their debts. I ignored all their attempts. Instead, I focused on my upcoming college graduation and the future ahead of me. As I reviewed my bank statement, which reflected the inheritance from Grandma, I felt a deep sense of responsibility. This money was my chance to make a real difference, to build the life Grandma had envisioned for me. Yet, despite my focus on the future, thoughts of Nathan frequently drifted into my mind. He was just a child, unintentionally tangled in adult complications. While I had no plans to support my father or stepmother financially, I found myself pondering if there might be a way to assist Nathan directly down the line. For now, though, I needed to pave my path. As I sat at my desk, exploring investment opportunities and considering job prospects, I was filled with a surge of excitement. The world was open to me in a way it had never been before, and I was eager to explore the possibilities that awaited. This was my time to forge a new path, guided by the values and aspirations Grandma had instilled in me.